Will you stop scrolling and give me 2 minutes? I want to share a very personal story about how the Lord showed me the meaning of biblical compassion. It was 9 months ago. I met my dad in Tampa for his first appointment with his oncologist. And as I arrived, I was eager to see him because it had been almost a year since I had seen him last. And the times before that were too far apart to remember. See, my dad and I weren't close because of our broken past. And unfortunately for us, we didn't have a lot of time to make up for the past. I recall being nervous about seeing him because I knew the strong, healthy man that I saw in May of 2020 was probably not the man I was going to see on this day. And as I walked into the Moffitt Cancer Center, I could see him from the back sitting in the wheelchair. And my heart dropped. My dad was thin. His face was sunken in. And see, my dad had always been full of energy, super healthy, always ready to crack a joke no matter what. And in his older age, he'd become much more of a loving person. And I think, honestly, that was always who he was meant to be, but it was covered up with hurt. It was covered up with brokenness. And so I walked up to his side and he looked up and he saw me and he smiled. He held out his hand to give me a fist bump as he always did. He said, "Hey son, I'm glad you came." And what I saw, it just broke me inside as I tried to keep it together. My dad had cancer. And I was just shocked. I mean, never in a million years would I think that my dad would have this disease. But here we were, hoping with this second opinion we would get some good news to relieve the blow that we had received in the past few weeks. The doctor came in. She began telling us all the details of the testing, and what we heard wasn't good. Bottom line, he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and it was aggressive. And at that moment, the regret rushed over me again. The what ifs, the regret, the grief, the fear. And after the appointment, my dad and I shared a conversation. I went and I sat down with my dad to talk to him, and the look in his eyes was telling. He was absolutely terrified. I mean, everything that ever mattered to him was all he could think about. The cares of this life were no more. And as I looked at him, he was just in shock. And I just reassured him that I would be there for him until the last moment, no matter what, no matter our past. And as I said this, he began to weep. This is only the second time I'd ever seen my dad cry. Once at my wedding when he told me his regret for his lack of love for me as a child, and now. And all he could say was, "I just want to make sure you and your family are going to be okay." And this absolutely broke me into a million pieces. I mean, here in his worst moment, he was concerned for me. And I think this is what tragedy does. It causes us to view life through a different lens. And speaking of looking at life through a different lens, I tell you all this to make this point. That day was the first time I saw my dad the way I did. I felt a deep compassion for him that I couldn't explain. Concern that hurt me inside. I mean, I saw him small and weak, unable to help himself, hopeless, full of despair and grief. And I just wanted to help. I wanted to take the pain. I wanted to move to action and love him. And in that moment, all I could think was, this is how Jesus saw every person during his time on earth. And this thought, it left me undone.